Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. Jason Gant, welcome to the program, man. Happy to have you.
Welcome. Thank you. Happy to be here. Happy New Year 2021. We made it. We're here.
Yeah.
Hey, we're living it. We're alive.
Yeah, well, we got a lot to touch on today, and I'm excited to do so. But before we get started, tell me one secret that most people might not know about you.
Hmm. Secret that people don't know about me.
Or a fun fact, something like that.
People may know it, and they may not trust it. So I'll go ahead and confirm it that I meditate daily every morning when I get up. And I actually do it in community, part of a group called Dharma Homies, and it's been virtual. So every morning, 8:30 or 8:45 to 9:30, I'm with a group, checking in, diving deep, searching within.
Wow, 45 minutes daily, huh?
Yeah, to start the day.
That's great. I mean, I would love to do that. I got two kids that so last night my son is like basically climbing in my ear, and I'm just like it's nice, but like not in the middle of the night where you're trying to really get some good rest. And I'm really about sleep, and just how that really affects your whole psyche, really. And so I want to make sure that I'm getting really solid sleep every single night. But he was just climbing all over the pillow. It was a nice, sweet thing, but it was just kind of annoying at the same time. But I would love to meditate every single morning. Sometimes when I do get that opportunity, it just really enlightens my day. And I love it. How long have you been meditating, and when did you kind of get involved with it?
I've been involved for almost a decade now, and got into it through the context of sports and athletics. But before we go any further, why don't we just do a quick practice?
For sure.
Take a little space. Ground ourselves, feel our feet on the floor.
Okay.
I like to say that your right foot is here and your left foot is now. So when you're in the here and now, then you're in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And your feet can't be in the past. Your feet can't be in the future. All we have is right now. So we might as well stand in it.
Right.
So let's go ahead and take a few breaths in through our nose, out through our mouth. And I notice you instantly close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to keep your eyes open.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I just invite you to just look around your space. You can look up to the left, look up to the right. Just looking around with a curious eye, looking below yourself. And then most importantly, in this time of uncertainty that we're in, a pandemic where we have low trust, even look behind yourself. And although we live here, we're in this familiar environment, just taking the opportunity to be curious about what's going on right now around us, which gives us a little bit of security for us which allows us to find some comfort in closing our eyes, opposed to trying to find what to concentrate on. So that was just a quick invitation. So I appreciate that. And feel free to keep your eyes open, and drop your gaze like on a object or color that you see that you just found in your immediate environment, or you can close your eyes.
Wow.
And again, just with 3 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. And again, deep breath in, nice and smooth out. And shaking the shoulders out. Oftentimes we have our shoulders up here and we don't realize it. So just taking the time to drop our shoulders.
Right. That's good, man.
And then last one. Let's just put our hands on our heart. Last one. Just see if you can feel your heartbeat. You may need to move your hand around just a little bit just to really feel it. Maybe press in with a little bit of firmness. but just taking a second to feel your heartbeat. Yeah. And it can be as simple as that. And even in that short time frame, we were able to throw in, even 4 exercises that we could definitely have leaned into a little bit more.
Wow. I definitely want to dive into, how you started getting involved with that. Like you said, a decade ago. It's definitely something that I really, I've got the Headspace app. I've got a couple of different apps that I use, and just sometimes when I'm in the car, I just breathe, and it's so essential for me. So really appreciate you guiding us through that. And you never know what you're going to get on Beyond the Bucket. So very nice. And appreciate that. But why don't you give everybody a 2.5, 3 minute backstory on you and your upbringing and, how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate the platform and the space. My name is Jason Gant, born and raised in Hunters Point, San Francisco, California. And, went to elementary school. Way back. I went to elementary school, a K through 8 school called Rooftop Elementary. It was one of the first middle school classes to graduate. So Go Rooftop Ravens helped create the mascot at the time and the school colors, which are still alive and well today. So Go Rooftop Ravens. Then I went on to Lick Wilmerding High School, a private high school across the street from City College in San Francisco. About 450 students in the school, and participated in basketball, volleyball, and soccer while a student there. And then had the great opportunity of going to UC Berkeley, where I studied public health, and had the opportunity of walking on and participating with the men's basketball team, club volleyball team, and then the track and field, participating in the high jump. And so, found my way through corporate America after graduating from school, and then really took the time to get away in almost a decade ago, around 2013 or so, and went to Spain, and was out in Spain with my partner. And she was in school learning flamenco dance, and while she was in school, I'd just be out wandering the city, and we were in Sevilla. And so really in that time is when I learned what I did not know then, which I would call mindfulness, the ability to be present in mind and body, as well as your surroundings, with a sense of curiosity and kindness. And so being out in Spain, not knowing anyone, just aimlessly trying to learn the town while I was alone when she was in class, I found myself learning a lot, being immersed in the culture, and then really decided when I come back to America, I'm going to pursue, something in my degree, which was public health, or my passion, which was basketball and sports.
Right.
And so that was my entry into 2 lanes: one, mental health, and then the second being coaching. And so I received the opportunity to work at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at UC Berkeley, which was the mental health opportunity. It is an organization that provides education for senior adults 55 and up on the UC Berkeley campus that are interest-based courses. So the students get to pick the course based on their interest, and there's no quarter. You don't have to. There's no credit. You don't need to pass anything. Strictly for interest. And the goal or the point of it was to improve the cognitive fitness of senior adults. So to protect against Alzheimer's and other mental diseases. And so, again, keeping that brain going, supporting mental health based in my background of public health. And so I would do that during the daytime, And then in the afternoons, they gave me the flexibility. And so shout out to my manager then for giving me the opportunity and the space to find myself and to pursue coaching. And that's when I started coaching at the junior college level for Merritt College, and then also started coaching for the SF champions at the AAU level. And so really working with players from the AAU level on through college. And so really developing that practice of leaning in on mental health while focusing on physical health in the afternoons really created an importance and an alignment between mind and body for me, which allowed me the space to investigate different learnings to connect mind and body so that I could be able to put my best foot forward.
Wow. A lot of places we can go with that for sure. Obviously highly educated, which is awesome. I think you got your master's at USF too, I believe, right?
Yeah, so I attained my master's from USF and got a master's in behavioral health as well as global entrepreneurial management. And while studying for my business degree, got the opportunity to study in Spain and Taiwan amongst a cohort of students from Asia and Europe. And a wonderful experience that actually got me closer to the Eastern practices of mindfulness and meditation, where I got to join international meditation groups, work with and learn from Master Rinpoches, as well as deepen my practice in Aikido and understanding Tai Chi and Qigong, which inspire and motivate some of the practices that I train and teach today in my mindful movement practice. So I'm not a yoga teacher, but incorporating traditional stretching, but then the practices I picked up overseas, as well as yoga, I've created a mindful movement series for athletes.
Wow. I want to start off first by, your upbringing. You grew up, you know, in San Francisco, and Hunters Point is noted all over the world for different things. But what was it like growing up in an environment like that?
Certainly interesting, as you said, worldwide renowned, known, and I would say the one thing that we're probably not known for, which creates a very interesting culture and dichotomy within the community and neighborhood, is that Bayview Hunters Point is squarely situated within San Francisco. And so as we talk about how underprivileged the community may be and under-resourced, it's still within the most expensive city in the world almost, in the US. And so we are one of the richest hoods in America.
For sure. I've never thought about it like that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's entrenched in, Union Square is right around the corner and all of that. So it's tough. Were there any tough moments for you growing up, in that area?
Tough moments. I studied in behavioral health. We studied adverse childhood experiences. So when you ask that question, I immediately think about adverse childhood experiences. And really that's around neglect and abuse and seeing trauma and being in environments that are unsupportive. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about the Bayview and what it's known for, do we think about support or do we think about love? And so, most often we don't think about either of those.
No.
And so that doesn't really create an environment for thriving. And so it's really about, searching within, being curious, having that growth mindset. But that really comes from having support. And as I look behind you, I see family, up in your living room. And that's really what it's about. It's about family. It's about creating community, and it's about understanding and knowing where your support is. And so I've, created an organization, an LLC called Village Tribe, which is really centered around connection and family, because we all know that it takes a village to raise a child, but it truly takes the tribe, and the tribe is within you. Because, if you don't have that support system, then it's within you to find those resources, to develop those skills, to then be able to identify who your village is.
Right.
And so, thankfully I come from a loving family, a strong family, who has supported me and given me the space to find myself, even into my 30s. And it's been a privilege to be from a neighborhood like Baby Hunters Point, while still having parents and a family around me that care, support, and have my best interest and foresight, in their hearts.
Wow. Did you always know you wanted to go, you wanted a higher education with, the environment that you grew up in? Was that instilled in you from your family members, or did you kind of accumulate that as you grew up?
Definitely from my family members and our family structure and tradition. My mom's educator, has been for 40 years, retired, uh, still continues to sub. Um, After, so many years, they try to get rid of you, and she's still there, phones ringing off the hook, asking for subs. And so, yeah, the family tradition of education has run deep. Actually, my mom and my sister also went to USF, so we have that familial tradition as well.
Hmm.
Um, and my dad has always talked highly of education. So from kindergarten, I've been in summer school my entire life. From kindergarten to first grade, I was in summer school. First grade to second, I was in summer school. And not on a remedial basis, but on that prep basis of getting ready for that next grade, and having a mother that was in education and wanted me doing something during the summers and not just hanging out. So staying busy, staying committed, being disciplined, and working through resilience. I did not want to be or understand why I had to do summer school every year. I wanted to be out making money. I wanted to go be outside hooping. But my life growing up from kindergarten through college was really academics and athletics. I was not recruited out of high school. As I said, I was a walk-on from a small private school. And so, when I got into UC Berkeley, I just walked into the basketball office and said, "Hey, I want to hoop. What needs to happen? What's the process?" And they introduced me to a few players. They said the players will speak up if I have any skills, and so they'll let you go to open gym, and it is what it is. And so from sticking around, from getting up, from falling, from not getting included, taking Bart out to Berkeley, thinking I'm going to get some run with some D1 guys, and then never getting picked up, having to take Bart back, just learning resilience and adversity intelligence to be able to keep going. And so I think that's really where it comes from. And the confidence or the will to, just walk into the basketball office that's really all I knew. As I said, academics, year in, every year in through summer school. And then I played a sport every season, even from first grade, where, having supportive family, as I talked about adverse childhood experiences, and really the environment, they put me in like Wilmerding, but that was really rooted in being raised in the Jewish Community Center. After rooftop, I would go to the Jewish Community Center for after school. And so, baking bread, doing challahs, and, doing Hanukkah celebrations and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. So really having that wide array of friends, experiences, to draw on, so that, I'm not a fish out of water, when life really happens.
Wow. Take me back to, the walk-on process. What was the point where they allowed you to say, "Hey, we want him on the team"?
Hmm. Um, Truly, I would say that was probably day one when they really got a good look at me. And I'd probably being bold saying this, and never really had that question posed like this. And sitting here with my feet on the ground, that's how I'm feeling. But I feel like when they had a when they had a good look at me, I was determined since day one. Been playing, talking about being at UC Berkeley, the model student athlete, um, and just work hard. And so I think they saw that, especially when you think about qualities of a walk-on, not having the arrogance of, a scholarship athlete possibly, or someone that had been privileged to have been given things based on natural talent and size. Um, you know, I would say day one. Now, I think what you're really asking is, what is the real process? And so what they were feeling in their heads, and what I believe them to be feeling in their heads about my true ability and what I could have added to the team day one, meaning even that summer before I started freshman year, is different from the reality of the process. And I've had to learn that extremely quickly, and happy to highlight that right now. So when I walked into the office, and mind you, as soon as I got into the school, I contacted the basketball office about the process and didn't hear much. Um, which, and I followed up and was thought I was pleasantly persistent and didn't really hear much. So that's what prompted me to physically show up, especially being from San Francisco, only a BART ride away. And so when I walked in, of course, because I had been leaving messages and trying to contact them through their admins, they knew the name. And so, they were able to put a face to the name. And, there was some kind of alarming in the office, like, look, he's this guy is here, because they had heard about me, but never spoke to me. So it was kind of alarm in the office, and people coming and poking their heads out and seeing who almost felt like a 5-star recruit. And so they're like, who are you? And so, oh, that's who you are. So we got to conversation, introduced myself, and a couple of players walked in, and I think they almost maybe tried to pass me off, like, oh yeah, go with these guys, here they are. But that's really where I needed to be, and is creating a relationship with the players and understanding what a D1 mentality is, coming from a small private high school. And so I remember Amit Tamir took me under his wing. We went into we left the basketball office. He literally had his arm over me, and we're just talking, introducing ourselves. He was from Israel, starting center, 6'8", shooting threes, extending the offense. And we walked into the gym, and they're playing open gym. And, it was basically just open gym. Folks are picking up their fives. And I kind of got an introduction from him, but, they don't really know who I am. Didn't get the warmest handoff, but I got an introduction from the coaches. So I'm in the arena, and so now it's on me to fend for myself, to try to get on the court. And so there were some good days, there were some bad days. Folks would roll an ankle, jam a finger, look over to me, and just say, "All right, it's all good. We'll just call it a day." And then there was that one time where they wanted to keep running. And here I am, still there, persistent, week after week, month after month, throughout the whole summer, and finally got that run. And, wouldn't say that I was a standout, because I didn't need to be, but I did enough to stay on the court. And from then on, was able to, find my place within the open gym.
Well, it's amazing about the persistence that it always ends up paying off for the people that are willing to, pay the sacrifice for doing that. Going back and forth to these open gyms where it was, it would be very difficult for somebody that, didn't have that same grit to continuously pursue a dream that you had. And the people that pursue their dreams, when the opportunity finally comes because of that persistence, that's when you can get something special. And it sounds like that was the case for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I like how you use the word grit. Um, and grit is often usually characterized as something that you have or don't have, or you got to go through so much adversity and trauma to be resilient, and that's what's gritty. And reflecting on that, just right now after you kind of summarizing and recapping what I shared, um, I realized that grit is trainable, but it's also you don't have to be in the gutter to be gritty.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just about consistency. And so when I think about my experience, it wasn't even being from Baby Hunter's Point, I don't want to paint the picture that I didn't have food on the table and whatnot. Definitely did, and was in a secure, strong family, but um, it was the consistency and the support that created the grittiness. It was since kindergarten, getting up and going to school at 8 a.m. Even in kindergarten, third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, 11th grade. So it's that consistency and that discipline.
Well,
And then
isn't the consistency really what you want in all aspects of your life? Because that's a very key point. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you are like leadership, for instance, being a consistent leader is very important. We don't want leaders that are, way this way and the way this way, and then you don't know what you're going to get. When it comes to coaches, same way. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to raising children, you want to be consistently in that person's life, day in and day out. And people that can remain consistent are usually more successful. LeBron James, he's I believe his 17th or 18th year in the NBA this year. Like, he's been consistent throughout his whole career, and
hmm
because of that consistency, um, you know, uh, largely assumed as one of the best players ever because of
hmm
that long-term consistency. Think about players like you're wearing your Warriors sweatshirt, but Gilbert Arenas, he was a really great player, but
hmm
he wasn't consistent over a long period of a career, whether it be 2 or 3 years that he was really really good. That doesn't paint a picture for a whole career, and so that consistency that you mentioned is so important.
Yeah. And then that second part is really discipline, and I think that I learned that from sports. The consistency is from the family and the parents, pushing me and supporting me in my interest of athletics and leading me into education and through all that summer school. But then my natural interest in sports and wanting to participate every single season. I started with sports at the JCC in first grade because they're the earliest that they allow children to participate in team sports at first grade, when it's usually third grade or so. And so I was doing swimming at that age, soccer, t-ball, basketball. And so I was just rolling every single season. And so that discipline of working hard to, put a goal on something, because school as a kid be seen as something you just have to do, a task and just follow up with, which was largely what I was doing because, I was being pushed into that or told to do that as a young child. But the interest in sports and my parents allowing me to do that and taking me all around the city to participate in sports, going from Bayview to California Street, at the JCC, Jewish Community Center, is all the way across town. So them taking the time and creating that space for me to do that allowed me to find the key nuggets in sports, like, attaining goals. Well, how do you get to the goals? You have to work hard. You have to remain consistent, not only in academics, but here too. You have to touch the line. And so just the combination of both, getting back to that definition of grit, for me, it wasn't, being from the bottom and having this, horrible childhood of adversity, which I have experienced, but it was around consistency and discipline, both from an academic, but also an athletic standpoint, which allowed me to have that grittiness as I got older and developed more wisdom and know-how. And so, just to cap off that story, as we talk about, persistence and grittiness, I want to add this third piece of, you don't have to be successful all the time. And so what I mean by that, and how do I illustrate that, is I actually didn't walk on until my junior year. And that's what I mean about there's actual process to walk on. When I walked into the office, I thought walk on meant someone like me. You show up and then you make the team through the process of trying out. When in fact, I went the entire summer being persistent, trying to get into the game. At the end of the summer, I was putting my hand in the circle saying, "Go Bears," putting a smile on my face like, man, let's go. I can't wait for the school year to start. Let's have tryouts. And then day one of school begins, and 7 other freshmen walk in to open gym. And I'm like, wait, who are these guys? And they were all recruited walk-ons, preferred walk-ons that weren't from the area. So they didn't have to commit their summer to being in Berkeley. So little did I know, there was a whole system and process as I'm working my butt off, and they already have guys selected. So there's not even space for me.
Wow.
And so that actually occurred my freshman and sophomore year. And being persistent, I made it my junior year. So back to your original question, when did they think, or when did I think they, saw something in me? I think it was day one. But because there's a process, because there's people that they may be beholden to, or there's, relationships, and you can't really prepare for someone just walking in, there was a process that I had to wait through.
Wow.
Work through.
That's a really good story. I didn't know that it was going to end like that, but that's a really good story. But changing topic just a little bit, I have, over the last year or so, this mindfulness has been coming into my life over and over again with different people. One of your mentors, I believe, that we've already had on the podcast, Todd Corbin, talks about mindfulness quite a bit. We had a really great conversation. But in your opinion, why is it important for athletes to learn mindfulness, and how can it really help them on the court or field, or whatever sport they're in?
Yeah. I think the most difficult part of athletics is performing at a high level, right? You're trying to, like we talked about or touched on, the goals, trying to reach that goal, whether it's being productive in a game, or fully winning the game, or actually making the playoffs through to a championship. And so when we think about achieving that goal, how do we get there? And it's, you have to go through intensity. And athletes know intensity really well, because it's called competition in athletics. And if you can't perform well in intensity, then that's how you get cut off the team. That's how you lose your contract. So you have to find a way to be productive in intensity. And civilians, or people that, people that aren't into sports, they would call intensity stress. Reducing stress, reducing that intensity, reducing that uncomfortable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Athletes love it because they call it competition and they fiend for it. But at the same time, we don't harness how to actually manage all the emotions that come from that, especially in an age where there's social media and there's thousands more voices that are inputted into athletes' heads. And so when we think about athletes, as we just talked about, student athlete, the mind student, and the athlete, the body. So the mind and the body, how do we combine the two? How do we connect them? And the line so that we get the optimal performance and output.
Mm.
And that's really where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness, I can give you, the classical definition. And I used to actually, that used to rule. I would try to memorize it and say it all the time, like word for word. And now I would just say that mindfulness is the bridge. It's the bridge from adversity to resolve, from problem to solution, from doubt to confidence. It's not going to be the solution to your problem, but it can help you get there.
Right.
And so, and since rocking the Warriors, I had the great pleasure of having a one-on-one with Steph Curry. He came to meet with us and actually dropped off one of his signature shoes at Merritt College. And speaking with him, a little nugget here that not too many people know, the Warriors practice mindfulness. And it's one of their core 4 principles.
Mm.
And the 4 principles he shared were that they practice joy, competition, compassion, and mindfulness.
Mm.
And so the Warriors practice these skills as well. And it's, particularly because of the heightened and enhanced awareness that it gives professional athletes that must perform at a high level, especially when you're trying to be, or you have established yourself as a dynasty and must continue at that high level.
Well, if you think about it, a disciple of Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr, was practicing that same sort of thing when he was playing for Phil Jackson. And, they were doing meditation, they were doing yoga, they were doing all of these things that because of the Bulls are, one of the best, those two championship runs. They three-peated twice. Those are extremely stressful situations. If you recall, if I don't know if you watched The Last Dance or not,
Definitely.
but when you look at everything that was going on in that story, when Dennis Rodman is excused to go, to Las Vegas so he can get away from it, and coach being okay with that. There's not a lot of people that would be okay with, one of their best players, a superstar, not attending practices and missing team activities. But because of his mindfulness, and because of the awareness that coach has, it just transcends what the team was able to do. And there were so many different things. If one of those things goes the wrong way, they lose. And them being in those moments, a lot of it comes down to being mindful and practicing mindfulness. Just like you said, the Warriors just got out of one of the most stressful runs in the history of basketball. And there's not a lot of runs that happen like that. 5 straight years where you are in chaos every single playoffs for 20 plus games. it is amazing what can actually happen. And just practicing that is really opened my eyes. And we actually did that with our high school team this year. We had a mental performance coach come in, and he was with us almost every single day, where he was a part of the team. And if it wasn't for me, finding a better understanding of my own self on what actually works for me, settling my mind, meditating, yoga, stretching, taking, you said it early on, grounding, putting our feet, the retreat. We go to the beach, and we sat there and meditated by the ocean, and just sat there and closed our eyes, and how great we felt right after that moment. Just all amazing things. And I'm a big proponent of it now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. How did the players take it? What was their first response?
Sometimes they feel like it's weird at certain point.
Yeah,
We're gonna do yoga on the beach, and then we're gonna just lay out there and just let the sun hit our face, and let the
yeah,
ocean breeze come in. But I think everybody really enjoyed it. If you poll them, I think that was one of the most impactful things that we had on last season. And then the thing is, when we get into the chaos, see, that's a preseason thing, right? But when we get into the chaos, we kind of lose track of that during the season. And, it's got me thinking maybe we need to do that a couple times during the season, so we can kind of reset and recalibrate as we go through the competition.
yeah. That's a poignant point, because what you shared is the benefits that you shared, that they felt good after they kind of settled in, they kind of appreciated it. That feeling doesn't take going to the beach, although being in the elements enhances the experience and is ideal. But we recognize that we don't always have the time and space, which is why mindfulness actually leans in on the breath, because it's with you at all times. It's actually the life force.
Right.
And if if I gave a player the instruction to um, monitor his breathing, or if people had to be aware of their breath, most people would just commit suicide, because they would just forget to breathe. They'd be too caught up in the black screen of their phones or their thoughts, that they literally would forget to physically breathe. And so that's why the breath is important. And that's why we lean in on the breath, not to be hippie or woo woo or anything, but it's literally our life force that's with us here and everywhere. And so that same breath, you can harness that at the gym as just as you did at the beach. And that's really the power of mindfulness, is the intention. It wasn't the beach that allowed that awareness and that heightened experience, but it was the perspective and the curiosity that you led with in your mind. And going to the clinical, or the more traditional definition of mindfulness, non-judgmental awareness occurred, which allowed those body intelligence benefits to be felt.
Right. And when you are, well, it's funny, like people, breathing doesn't really take comprehension, right? You're not really thinking about breathing, unless you're actually thinking about breathing. But the majority of people, they just go around daily, and they just go on breathing. But if you ever don't have air, that is that's a really scary thing. If you've ever been into a pool, and you're like a little bit further than you want to be, and you're trying to get that breath, it's amazing what you're going to do to try to get that, and the anxiety that you have when you don't have it. And so, slowing, for me personally, slowing your thinking about your breath, slowing things down, is very, very important. And think about it this way. I've had the privilege to be in the be in the uh see birth, twice, for my own children, and my wife doing that. And breath is,
Congratulations.
thank you. And breath is the one thing that gets them through as much pain as it is for a woman and for for women. I understand why all the athletes, they want to get their mama house when they get big, because the things that the women endure is just incredible. But breath is the
I
one
mean,
thing that can get them through. And they tell you to breathe, and they go through these exercises before you even have the child, and it's all about breath work. So it's just fascinating to me that something so simple can be so complex and open so many doors that you've never really thought about before.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't have the good fortune of having any children yet. Hopefully one day. But just in your example, you just shared another life force example. I was thinking about it in the everyday of keeping us alive, but creating life, and being the life energy and the life force. And so, thinking about it in even more common day or everyday terms, I would say the importance of breathing is folks don't even like you said, they forget about their breath, so they're not aware of it. And but the science of that is when you're not aware of it, you're not intentionally taking one, so you're not actually breathing. And so usually our breath is up here, very short, constricted breathing. And if you notice, that's the type of body intelligence or body awareness that we have when we're stressed out, overwhelmed, and in uncertainty.
Right.
We don't have our breath. We can't find our breath. And so we're walking around in that without being aware of it. And that's why we're so stressed out. So when we think about the context of an athlete, the breath work is monumental, because not only are they physically running, so they're modulating their breath and getting tired. So the importance of being able to slow down that breath and use it on demand becomes even more critical when we're discussing optimal and peak performance, especially as you go up the ladder. And so that mind body connection, being able to connect the mind with the body, as simple as being at the free throw line. The free throw line has remained the same distance since I was in elementary school and years before that. So there should be no looming cloud of any player saying, I don't shoot free throws, because it's been the exact same range your entire life. So that's been probably the most practice you've gotten in the sport of basketball, is at the free throw line. And so for you to say, I just don't shoot free throws, or for us to say that a player is going to the free throw line and they don't do well, that all has to do with not being aligned mind and body, because they made it to the league, especially if we're talking about NBA, or if they made it to collegiate basketball, they can hoop. But now, can they align their mind with the physical talents that they have? The different, and what does the mind mean? It means harnessing the distraction. As you go up in level, the distraction goes up, and that was before social media. The fans, the expectations, the family expectations, the coach, the persona, all of those things, the imposter syndrome that players feel, um, and just having to feel and be successful on demand takes a mental harnessing and intelligence that has never truly been explored the way it is nowadays. And so, taking your players out there to the beach to really connect, align mind and body so that they can feel the space, because really what that's doing is just creating the conditions for peak performance. Again, that bridge.
Yeah, I got a two-part question as we kind of wrap things up. One, why do you think some coaches are not interested in this mind-body connection? Um, that's the first one. And then, is there any literature for people that are looking to find out more information? Obviously, they could probably do a Google search, but do you have anything specific in which somebody is, willing to put their toe in the water and find out some more information on this mindfulness practice that can, ultimately help them in their everyday lives?
Yeah, certainly. So for the first question, why are coaches not as open to it? Well, first of all, you have to learn something new, right? And with responsibility comes power. And with that comes, I know how to do things, or things are going to be my way or the highway. And once we get into the behavior of this works for my personality or my style, and this has worked enough to get me to this level, then at some point, some coaches feel like they have learned enough and they don't need to stay curious. And so to then open up the door to a foreign, which could be seen as academic side of athletics, being around mental skills and mindfulness and rooted in, Eastern practice, and it can be associated with Buddhism and India and China, and like, I don't have time for that. Who has time for that when I need to focus on these guys aren't touching the line, they're not strong enough, they're not quick enough, and they haven't even comprehended the plays. So when we talk about time, and time being the biggest commodity that we all have as people, especially learning that in 2020 as we're sheltering in place, is how do you find the balance to just be? I think the conversation needs to switch from trying to find this balance into, being grounded and just being. And we need to shift into that mindset of curiosity. And from there, we can just meet people and players where they're at to really get the most out of the team. And I think that's really what you were asking, is how do we get the most out of our team? Coaches can be curious about the player's experience, be curious about their development. I think as coaches, we forget that we're leaders. We can get caught up in the game and forget that we're actually leaders, and we're actually parents, mentors, psychologists, and all babysitters and all the others. Because, even working and coaching at the junior college level, parents can call us and they get to check in on players and how's my son doing? How come they're not playing, or why this, why that? Constant check-ins where other adult or other parents don't have that accessibility to their child once they go off to college. Right. And so remembering you're that leader. And then second question, I would say the greater good.
I want to jump in real quick, because you talked about time being our most important asset. And I was just listening to another podcast, and Dr. Jim Lohr is on there, and he's a mental performance coach for many great athletes. And he talked about our time isn't the most important asset. Actually, it's
okay.
And it's the energy that you bring to the time, and how you align with the objective you want to reach. So the energy that you put into that time is the part, and it goes along with what you were saying, and then ultimately finding that objective that you want to reach is. I just thought it was a profound way to look at time, and most importantly, you talked about it being where your feet are, right? That is really the most important part, because if I'm giving all of my energy to where I'm at right here, right now, there's no other place that is more important than this time period, because I'm not going to be able to think about what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know what's happening right now. And if you can center your thoughts in that way, it is profound. And I think that was a great quote that I wrote down just 2 days ago. So
no, definitely right on. And I think the connection there, or the partnership between the two, is really intention. And I think you really spoke to that in your examples, is the intention with our time is really where it's at. And that's what mindfulness speaks to. Intention of our body, our mind, and our surroundings, while having an attitude of curiosity and kindness. And so, definitely feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jason Gant. Also, My Village Tribe on Instagram and Twitter. And then, a great resource that I lean in on is the Greater Good Science Center. They talk a lot about mindfulness and tools that you can actually implement for your everyday life in work, school, or in athletics. And so, feel free to reach out to me with specific questions. And then I would, as a resource, I lean on the Greater Good Science Center.
Beautiful. Well, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a great conversation, man. I appreciate you, Jason, for joining the Beyond the Buckets.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Beyond the Buckets, Village Tribe. It was a wonderful session, and I look forward to further discussions and learning together. So appreciate it. Families on your back. Much love. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.